Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of August 14th, 2025, and note that we are holding this meeting in dual locations here at the Santa Barbara County Board of Education office in Santa Barbara, as well as our North County office on Farnell in Santa Maria. I want to note that live simultaneous Spanish interpretation of the board meeting is available for those who are viewing online. And I would invite you to join me as we pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's nice to see our colleagues in Santa Maria, and Anna will do the roll call.
Okay, Mrs. Alvarez Flores.
Here.
Thank you. Dr. Armistead. Here. Mrs. Carty.
Here.
Ms. Ehrman. Here. Mrs. Frost.
Yeah.
I think I didn't hear her here, but I see her.
I know, I saw her move.
Here.
You're here. Okay. Mrs. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Anna. There are no changes to the agenda, so we'll start with some president and board comments. From my part, I would like to acknowledge the tremendous loss to the community with the death of Peter McDougall. As everyone knows, Peter was just a superhero in education in this area. He served 16 years on the County Board of Education, 2 terms as president, and it was truly an honor serving with him. He had a massive commitment to student success and to public education. He had a mean sense of humor. And I used to tell him it's kind of like being with a Kennedy when he was around. We miss him dearly. Any other comments from our South County?
I would like to share about Cabrillo High School being awarded the 2025 Superintendent's Award for Excellence in Museum Education. It's outstanding for that school. I've visited this aquarium several times. It's incredible, the work that the teachers and the students do on this. It says the award recognizes our student-designed hand-on labs activities that local elementary students participate in during their visits to the aquarium. They've received lots of help from Monterey Bay Aquarium and other aquariums in the area, and I just think it's incredible. If you haven't been there, I would recommend a visit.
Thank you, Sarah. Nadja.
I just wanted to add on to your comment just about Dr. Peter McDougall. I had the honor of representing his trustee area after he retired. And he was just such a foundational leader and left big shoes for all of us to fill. And I just think of his profound leadership example that continues with his legacy. So.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, Judy.
I don't know. Interrupted my train of thought. I had the pleasure of serving with Dr. McDougall on different foundation boards for over 20 years. And I cannot think of him without thinking of his manner of communicating with staff at board meetings. And it was always, I have 3 things to say. And it was always 3 things to say: first, second, and third. And I just, I'll never forget that. And I'm so sorry that we've lost him. And I'm so glad that I had the time to serve with him and that I did.
Yes, and his legacy is deep. And here at County Ed, we have him to thank in large part for the Computers for Families program. He was instrumental in that campaign and so much more. Thanks, everybody, for your comments. Do we have any public comments?
Mary Beth, I believe board
Sorry,
trustee
Vita.
or yeah.
I see Vita's arm in the air.
Are you here?
We can't hear.
Oh, no.
There we go.
No, what?
I was just going to share a little bit about the beginning of the school year starting in Santa Maria Bonita. And with that, our superintendent gathered all employees at the fairgrounds on August 12th for lunch. And I mean, everybody, they closed the schools so that everybody could go for that hour of lunch there. And then they actually continued the professional development from 1 to 3 for all that were going to continue with professional development, and brought in a very inspirational speaker. Last name is LaSalle. Fabulous introduction to a very busy year. And with that, we also have a group of future educators, special education group of 9 who will be finishing their residency in June, and a group of bilingual ed. This is the 3rd year for the bilingual ed credential. And I believe we have 12. I might be wrong because I couldn't count everybody that was there. So it's a busy time and we're back at it, and saying in Spanish, y que llega más. Let's hope more to come. Thank
That's-
you.
That's great. Thank you so much. So back to public comment.
None here in South County.
Any in North County?
No, there is no public comment.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to move to a closed session to entertain an interdistrict attendance appeal. So I'll invite those of you to exit. Welcome back to open session. With regard to the interdistrict transfer appeal, the board voted unanimously and sadly to uphold the decision of the district and deny the interdistrict transfer. Now we'll hear from Dr. Salcido on the superintendent's report.
Thank you and good afternoon to everyone. And it's very, very good to see all of you here in person and online, see you very clearly here. So it's wonderful to see you after the July recess. And I want to just say what's in the air. Boy, that is, these interdistrict transfer hearings are so challenging because you're considering the humanness behind it all. So I know that that's a very difficult experience, complex and all, and just appreciate how far you lean in to listen to the families as well as the district too. So thank you for that. I have quite a few updates that I'd like to share with you beyond the superintendent's report that's in your materials. First off, I'd like to say a thank you to the frontline staff in Cuyama related to the Gifford fire. Frontline meaning first responders, frontline meaning the families and the schools. Superintendent Alfonso Gamino and I communicated today. We've been communicating our office with his team throughout the fire. He's done a phenomenal job of communicating to his families. Students returned yesterday. The road was opened yesterday, and I will say that the Office of Emergency Management, our team, as well as Cuyama, worked very closely together, was very intentional to move mountains literally so that roads could open so that school could happen. So a huge thanks to every individual who had their hands in that. And Cuyama is open, and I got a big thumbs up from Alfonso Gamino today. Yeah, I also want to introduce a new individual to our team, not new to SB CEO, our Associate Superintendent of Human Resources, Gina Branham, who's in Santa Maria today. I bet you she's going to get up right here and approach the podium right there. There we go. To say hello. I thought Gina could just say hello, and you have a face to the name there in Santa Maria. We'll get a face to the name back here in Santa Barbara when we next meet. Gina, if you want to just say a few things.
Sure, thank you. No, I'm excited to be here. Back at SPT.
We just got cut off from
Oh.
your mic. Yep. Oh, maybe one more time. We just heard the oh. Nope, cannot hear. Yep.
Okay.
Shoot.
All right, got rotating mics.
There you go. There
This
we
one?
go. Perfect.
Okay, all right. So I was just saying it is wonderful to be back at SB CEO. It's great to be here with all of you. I had the pleasure of meeting 3 of the trustees here today in person, and just look forward to meeting all of you down there in Santa Barbara in person in the future. So thank you just for the introduction.
Thank you so much, Gina. We're so excited to have her on board. Gina comes most recently from Guadalupe Union School District, was assistant superintendent there, working with Dr. Emilio Handal. And prior to serving there for 7 years, she was here, SB CEO. So she's come back. Yeah. So excited for everyone to meet her in person. Another more on the information item. Good news is that Allen Hancock College each year has a Hancock Honors event. I know I'm looking over at Judy Frost here. She's a sponsor of that event and, very much, involved with Allen Hancock College, as many of you are. One of the individuals who's being recognized is Dr. Henry Davis. And some of you may recognize him as a graduate of the board and county offices Operation Recognition. He was a veteran, served in the military, and due to his service was unable to receive his high school diploma at that time. So several years ago, I want to say it's 2019, he graduated, got his diploma through the county offices Operation Recognition. His story is phenomenal. He is going to be recognized as one of the awardees at Hancock Honors. We decided to go ahead and send a message to all of the graduates of Operation Recognition saying that one of their own was getting honored, and invited them up to Hancock Honors to join him. So just a feel-good news story there. The date is September 6th. I think it's around a 5 or 6 p.m. event. I know that you'll send great spirits out into the universe as he gets that award. I'll be there. I know that Judy will be there. Vita may be there. We'll see. But there'll be a large event, a large group of people there. All right. Then moving on, at your places, I put an article, an op-ed that was sent out widely throughout the county, standing with our students and families in time of uncertainty. And I say that because clearly the uncertainty, the fear, the anxiety, the worry, it's palpable in our communities throughout the county. Not to extend my time here as with this report, I do want to call out a couple of lines here, because I say that because it really is a statement from me and the county office around our support of our youth. And in the 3rd paragraph, I really mean it, that most of us have zero control over federal policy. We do have control over what we stand for. And in Santa Barbara County, communities reflect, importantly, a wide range of deeply held beliefs and lived experiences. And we all have friends and neighbors and colleagues and family members on all sides of the political aisle. And that's part of living in a democracy. And yet when it comes to children, I believe we stand on common ground. Children deserve to feel safe and loved. They need compassion and care. They need family. and they deserve to live and learn without fear. That really is a statement that I really hold on to strongly around supporting our youth, and then of course their families, and then of course our communities. On the backside or the second page, I emphasized intentionally that California law guarantees all children the right to a free and public education. We do not ask for nor collect immigration information. We do not share data with immigration authorities unless presented with a valid court order. And immigration officers are not permitted on campus without a judicial warrant. These safeguards help keep schools what they're meant to be, which are places of learning, safety, and connection. Beyond that, what is written here, we want to focus on the joy and the learning and the growth of our students in our schools. We wouldn't let even an auntie pick up a student unless they're on the emergency form. So we are wanting to have school be a place of learning and support and growth. And I am working with our superintendents, private and public schools and charter schools, as they also are wrestling with what's happening here in our communities. And all of us want to lawfully conduct school. And so just please, I wanted to share that with you and let you know where I stand, where schools have been very, very supportive of not only this statement, but creating their own statements and ensuring that on their websites, they have information for families, resources for families to know the laws, and know to make a plan if they need to make a plan. So our website at SBCEO also has resources. We've shared those out with our schools and districts. Santa Barbara Unified has a very strong statement. Goleta has a very strong statement. Santa Maria Bonita has had a huge community event about their statement. So I wanted you to know that that activity is happening. All right, changing course now on the federal funding. Over the July, I shared with the board about the impounded funds, and now they are unfrozen. So the funds will go back now to school districts. In terms of Santa Barbara County, the amount of those impounded funds for the school districts, including SBCO, totaled $12.4 million. And now, of course, they'll be unfrozen and sent back out to districts. I want to share with the board my thinking around the federal impounds, because at first glance, it has to do with funding. Are you getting funding? Or are you not getting funding? Are you getting funding? And I want to put that in one place, spot. Another spot is the scramble that's caused by thinking you're going to get funding, and then it gets stopped, and then it gets started again. So there's the funding, and then there's the scramble. And then the third category is the policies and what this means for students. So the funding piece, we know that, I believe there's times where there's ample funding and it ebbs and it flows. It increases and it decreases, and that we understand. We understand that we want funding for our students per pupil, but we have lived through lots of different changes with funding flow. The second portion, though, is the scramble, is one of the hardest pieces, because in order, whether you're a school district or a nonprofit organization or a company, retail, or any kind of company, the way you plan is not month at a time. It's not a day at a time. And in fact, it's not even a year at a time. You really want to plan strategically over time. So if you're planning for funding over time and then it suddenly gets stopped, you are pivoting and you're trying to serve your students the best you can, but it takes people, and people cost money. And so then it becomes this whiplash of decision making. And so that is a part, the scramble is the part that I think is really challenging. So that, because if you want to be strategic, you need to know, what are we working with here? What's guaranteed funding? And then the third area of signaling, what does this mean? This isn't a comprehensive thought that I'm saying, or not all comprehensive. It's not everything in one basket, but when you see professional learning for staff cut, supports for migrant education students, supports for emerging multilingual learners. When you see cuts for LGBTQ plus youth, it becomes a statement around, who are we supporting when we say we're supporting all students? So I think I'm pleased to know that the federal impounds are now no longer being impounded, that they'll get out to the schools. It's that, but it's more than that. And so I just wanted to say that as a statement, because as I provide you information about funding for schools, it's also about, what are the policies? What are we saying about all students? What are we saying about strategic planning and thoughtful plans for our schools throughout Santa Barbara County and our nation? So wanted to say that. The penultimate topic that I wanted to share has to do with information technology services. Over the summer, in July, I sent the board the ITS audit that had come up in a previous conversation, and shared with you some of the restructuring that we're doing, which is really, really important. I'm going to start actually with the goal. The goal in mind is to have a robust ITS department here at SBCEO that's looking at supporting all of our organization, mindful of cybersecurity, knowing that we have the cloud, we have programs, we've got AI right here. It's not even coming. It's here now. And support for our school district. So the goal is I believe the right goal for our IT services department and our organization. When Sharon Van Gundy and Sam Van Gundy retired after a very, very long time of dedicated support at SBCEO, it allowed for some restructuring to occur, plus just getting the input from the audit, all the surveys, all the interviews, the public comment, any comment, those all informed a need for a restructure. So and I'll say it's more than a restructure, it's really a philosophical change as well. So one of the philosophical changes that is a restructure is that I don't even know if I completed my thought on Sharon and Sam Van Gundy, which is to say a thank you for all of their support. That's what I wanted to say, is a thank you for their years and years of service and dedication. And Sharon at the time, as the lead of the department, was an administrator. That was the title of her role. And we thought, when we're seeking a new lead for that department, it's not necessarily something familiar that everybody knows. What's an administrator of ITS? Let's make sure that we call it what people know it to be: a leader of that department, a chief technology officer. So the chief technology officer position is now open. The job description was created. It's open. We have been working very closely with the current IT staff. They too were saying, with all this restructure, let's hire that CTO position first. It's open until this Sunday at midnight. And then we'll see if we need to extend it or if we go with what we've got, but it's coming soon. And importantly, that individual will be a part of my cabinet team. So still reporting to Steve Torres under School Business Administrative Services, but reporting directly to us as a real conduit for information and decision-making throughout the organization. So that's one piece. Another piece is really just defining the different tiers in IT services of who's face-to-face with customer clients and who's really looking at policy and security. So all kinds of tiers have been created that make good sense. Right now, we're expanding from 15 individuals in the department to 17 individuals in the department as a start. And we're really working together to improve what needed to be improved, to deliver on the goals and services that I shared at the beginning. And, I'm really thankful for our team, our ITS department, for Steve and Mari and Gina and so many people who've been part of this to work with our consultant, with the audit group who were excellent, but also work with our own team to help define how we know what the goal is, how are we going to get there? And so it's been a very, very positive, but difficult, complex reorg. But I wanted to make sure that you heard about it. I'm happy to give a update later as we move along, but I know you've been hearing about this IT services, and so I wanted to give you an update there. And then last but not least, I wanted to say that I'm excited. What's coming? You'll get a flyer, and I'll share this with you later. But in September, and I want to get the date right, in September on the 30th, our team is hosting an artificial intelligence AI workshop for the community. So parents and students and educators, we actually have a series going on through the year, but that particular event in the evening will happen across the county. It'll be multiple locations. Right now, we believe it'll be Santa Barbara here at SBCEO. Somewhere in San Ynez Valley will host an opportunity, as well as Santa Maria Joint Union High School District. I want to thank Ellen Barger and her team for bringing Ken Shelton, who's an incredible speaker around AI. It's obviously, there's wonderful tools that we can use, but there's also a lot of caution that we need to ensure that we're thinking about, and Ken will do a really great job of providing that. September 30th in the evening, more to come. Okay, those were all of the updates I wanted to provide, and I wanted to see if you had any questions for me, whether from what I shared or was in your report from North or here. So let me take a minute.
Hi, this is Judy.
Hi, Judy.
I just wanted to note my appreciation for your response with the IT audit and the IT response. It really helps the board to know that we have public comment for a reason. And if we hear things and we investigate them and we decide there's changes that could be made, it helps us know that you're being responsive to what's going on in the organization. And I really appreciate it. So thank you for keeping us posted.
Thank you.
I mean, I would also echo that last thing you said to me really was the question I was having in my head as you were talking about how this organization can be more proactive in terms of leading and instigating the discussion and conversation around education in general, but certainly specifically AI. So I just came back from a financial conference. That train has left the station. I mean, it is here, and even as you're talking about hiring a couple more people, which is probably necessary, certainly a lot of it is there are going to be a lot of people displaced and moved around, and I think the more we can be proactive in terms of having understanding of what does that mean in education, everything from curriculum to workforce. So glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll add to that I think it was a great idea to include the chief technology officer in your cabinet. That is a proactive move, and it really is meeting the moment. And it's the next frontier, and there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot of changes that will shake down as a result. So thank you for that exciting news. Also, thank you, Susan, for reminding us of the values of this office, prioritizing not just academic success, but student safety and welfare. I think it behooves us to have a leader who is walking the walk, who's clear-eyed and can get us through the scramble, as you said, with I have total confidence in your ability to do that, and I appreciated that article.
Thank you so much.
Just want to echo the same thing. There's a lot going on. And that's the one thing we can really agree on. I really appreciated that statement, is children and how they deserve access to education, to feel safe, to feel loved. And that's our responsibility as adults. And I'm not sure everybody's speaking up that should be speaking up. And so I'm really proud to be part of this organization and the willingness for this community to be standing up the way they have, and having you, our leader, really demonstrate that. I'm very appreciative. Thank you. Oh, because everyone else has said what I've been feeling. So yeah, thank you for all of the information, reiterating our values, being the leader that you are. It's very comforting to know that we have your leadership in this role at this time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Before you've got the minutes of our special meeting that was held on June 12th, the minutes of our regular meeting on June 12th, and then the minutes of our meeting on June 18th. In addition to the registration of credentials and certification documents and issuance of temporary county certificates, our acceptance of donations, declaration of surplus, issuance of high school graduation diploma. And I need a motion to approve all of the above.
I so move.
Got two motions. I'll take one as a second.
We'll need to do roll call for every action because we're dual location.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote then. Anna.
Okay, Mrs. Alvarez Flores.
Here.
I,
Thank you, Dr. Armistead.
Aye.
Mrs. Cardy,
Aye.
Ms. Ehrman,
Aye.
Mrs. Frost,
Aye.
Mrs. Reed,
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
All right.
Thank you. Motion passed.
I would like to ask one question about item number 16. Since we're up here in North County, Nadra, did you bring cards for our graduates? Or have we passed that torch on to someone else to make sure that happens?
I did indeed. They're
Well,
here.
can you sign, I think, our names? I'm sure all of us would like to sign
Okay.
it too, so please
We'll-
put our names on it as well.
Will
And
do.
thank you.
Of course.
I thought of that.
Great, thank you. Now we'll have a presentation on the federal funding outlook in education. We're going to prepare for a Zoom coming from DC. I'll take the time to do that. Again, mics off until we need them.
I'd like to introduce Alicia Kilmovich from West Ed. I got a chance to hear from Alicia a few weeks ago, who presented on the federal funding outlook. And although, and she's in Washington, D.C. and does this for a living for West Ed. And when I heard her, I thought, okay, she's great. She will provide us with an education here. So about 15 minutes on a federal outlook. And Alicia, thanks so much for joining by Zoom today. I'll hand it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the invitation, and it's wonderful to meet everyone. As Susan mentioned, my name is Alicia Kimovich, Director of Policy and Outreach with West Ed. And essentially, I'm West Ed's government relations person. And just as a quick preface for all of this, it will get a little wonky at times. So if anyone has a question or needs anything clarified, please just interrupt me and ask it, because it will be easier to understand everything, in the full picture if everything's clarified, versus waiting to the end. Let's see if I can advance my slides. Oh, yes, great. So let's start with Congress and what's been happening. So Congress's focus right now isn't really on policy. It's really focused on appropriations and budget reconciliation. So first, thinking of fiscal year 2025 appropriations, which is coming to an end September 30th. There wasn't an actual appropriations that Congress passed. They passed what they call a continuing resolution, which essentially just maintained current funding levels and extended them through this fiscal year. One of the big changes, though, or big differences for this continuing resolution versus what we've seen in the past is historically when appropriations pass or a continuing resolution pass, there's the legislative text, and then there's also what's in what they call the bill report, which is like the explanatory statement. A lot more details are in the bill report than in the legislation itself. This CR passed without the bill report, which means there's flexibility that the administration has that they can exercise with some funding, and they already have a little bit. For charter schools, for example, for the charter schools program, they added $60 million for a total of $500 million to go towards that program. They haven't told the public where that $60 million came from, so which other program they took it from, but that's the kind of flexibility that they have with this funding right now. And if there is another CR, that flexibility could continue just depending on the larger politics. And then also for this year, there are potential rescissions, which I'll talk about more in just a minute. So there's fiscal year 2025 appropriations, which we're in right now. As they're figuring out fiscal year 2025, Congress is also talking about next year, fiscal year 2026. And this is again where it can get a little wonky because the timeline isn't as it should be, as it has been, 30 years ago when they were doing appropriations. So fiscal year 2026 starts October 1st and runs through September 30th of next year. It starts with the president's budget request, which is just a proposal. And I'll talk a little bit more about what's in there and what we need to look for and understand in just a bit. So Congress considers that proposal and enacts, different funding levels. The House usually first proposes their bill before the Senate. This year is a little different. The Senate introduced their education bill first, which is unusual. But their education bill was developed more bipartisanly than what we're expecting from the House. So once each chamber passes their budget, they'll conference it, so figure out the differences and negotiate the levels. And then it goes to the president for his signature. And that's going to probably be the wild card in all of this is if whatever Congress agrees to, if the president will also agree or the administration will also agree with it. And this will impact next academic year. So this funding that's being decided for fiscal year 2026 will be available to schools, districts, and states July 1st, 2026. And then we have this third piece, which recently passed, but I wanted to still include it because they're talking about doing more budget reconciliations, as well as just talking about the impact of the budget reconciliation, or as it's maybe known more colloquially, the one big beautiful bill. This bill specifically impacts mandatory spending. So appropriations is for the discretionary side of the House. Discretionary spending is about 35-ish, maybe 40%, depending on the year, of the total federal budget. And these are the programs that Congress, again, has to appropriate every year. If they don't, that's when we enter a government shutdown. Your mandatory spending programs, which is closer to 65% of the budget, those are the programs that are also known as entitlements. So Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and SNAP or food stamps are the big ones. And these programs are mandatory because it doesn't matter if Congress doesn't act or if we are in a government shutdown, these checks are rolling out no matter what. So if you recall some recent government shutdowns, people still receive like their Social Security check because, again, that's not discretionary funding, that's mandatory, and that funding is going regardless. So in this big, beautiful bill, it really focuses on mandatory funding again. So not a lot of impact on K-12 education specifically, because most K-12 education dollars comes from the discretionary pot of money. But as we'll talk about in just a little bit, there will be probably some impacts on K-12 funding stemming from the budget reconciliation bill. The bill also extended the 2017 Trump tax cuts. It increased the debt limit. And the really important thing and why they want to do another one is because of some arcane rules in the Senate. You only need a simple majority, so only 51 votes to pass a budget reconciliation. For appropriations and most policy bills, you need 60 votes. Right now, the split is 53 Republicans and 47 Democrats, or folks who are, and two independents who caucus with the Democrats, so 47 Democrats. So getting to 60 can be a challenge nowadays. So if you only have to get to 51, they can essentially lose 2 votes and still be able to pass this bill. So that's why they put a lot of emphasis and time into budget reconciliation. It's a speedier process than having to go through the full filibuster and everything in the Senate. Okay, I don't know if I can advance my slides now. So next, please. Thank you. So the big thing now for fiscal year 2025 approach. So a month ago when I gave this presentation to Susan, the big thing was all the funding was frozen for the titles. So if you recall, Title II, which was teacher professional development, Title III, English language acquisition, all that funding that was supposed to be available July 1st, the Office of Management and Budget, or OMB, had frozen it for programmatic review. I'm happy to say within this month's time, those funds have been unfrozen and should now have flowed through states into districts and schools. There is still some funding that the Department of Education has, or in DC it's shorthand known as ED, that they still have that was appropriated through fiscal year 2025 that we're not entirely sure what they're going to do with. And the reason we're not sure is that usually they submit an operating plan that tells Congress how they're going to use the dollars. Historically, no one's really cared about the operating plans because Congress has been pretty prescriptive in terms of telling the administration how they're going to use the dollars because they have the legislative text and that bill report. This year, again, without that bill report, the operating plans are really now important in terms of telling Congress how they're going to use all this money. Those operating plans have not been shared with the public. And the site that tells how much money has been spent based on program and department is not operational anymore. I believe there's a lawsuit going on around that and if that is legal or not. So we're not entirely sure how much funding is still with Ed that hasn't been allocated. I think my best guess would be about $1 billion. But don't quote me on that because again, there's no real public information on that. So some of the funding has been given to states and luckily all of the formula grants were unfrozen. I'll be honest, I'm not sure entirely what the program review was, or if there was one, or if there was just enough pressure from Congress to release these funds. But those funds have been unfrozen, luckily. The news and where I'm getting this $1 billion number from is really the competitive grants. So these are grants that schools, district, states apply for. A couple of big ones are the Education Innovation and Research grants or the Teacher Quality Partnership grants. Again, this is money that isn't formulaically just given to everybody, but there's an application process. There is no news on those competitive grants. They've canceled most of those contracts, so we're waiting anxiously to see if they're going to recompete things or if they're going to spend this money. And if they don't want to spend this money, that's where we go to rescissions. We don't know yet. This is where I may get a little wonky. So again, please interrupt with any questions. So there was a rescission package that the administration sent to Congress a couple weeks ago. That was the $9 billion that went to USAID programs and public media. Congress passed that, so that money was rescinded. So basically, Congress had already allocated that money and then took it back at the administration's request. What we keep hearing is that there's going to be another rescission packet because, again, they have all this money that they need to spend by the end of this fiscal year, which is a month and a half away. That they either it needs to get rescinded or we get into a legal gray area. Um, we're hearing that education funding is going to be part of this potential rescission package, but there is no official word in terms of how much or which programs. It's all a lot of DC rumor mill. Um, and with the rescissions, a lot of money could come from the rifts that have happened at Ed. So there is less staff or fewer staffers now at Ed, which is less money that they're spending overall. So there could be some funding that has been obligated because they're not paying salaries anymore as of August 1st. And then there could be some other interesting proposals and ideas that they have, which we'll talk about in just a sec when we come to the president's budget request. So there's the official rescissions package that they could propose to Congress. They have to do that. If they want to go the official route, they have to do it by tomorrow, by the 15th, because Congress has 45 days to act on the rescission package if the administration sends them one. If they don't send it by tomorrow, which is looking likely, we enter, and this is where these are very DC terms, but there's a potential for what we're calling a pocket rescission or a silent rescission. A pocket rescission would be they don't allocate the money, they don't propose it to Congress, or maybe they do propose it to Congress right after Labor Day. And at that point, it's too late already in the fiscal year to spend that money, so it's automatically rescinded. They're just running out the clock. A silent rescission, which is a newer term that I just learned, is especially for competitive grants, is basically they have all this money to spend for competitive grants and they just don't have a competition. So that money just goes unspent. So it's not officially rescinded. It's not rescinded by running out the clock. It's just silently goes back to Treasury. So a lot could happen in the next 45 days with education funding that we are anxiously waiting to see what the administration tries to do and what they're interested in. And the legal gray area is impoundment, which is if they don't use the money Congress has allocated. I say it's a gray area, even though the law is pretty clear. The administration has said their interpretation of the law differs from precedent. So there could be a legal fight coming in that way as well. Next slide, please. Actually, no, next slide, but also I'll pause just to see if there are any questions really quick. Okay, great. So we talked about fiscal year 2025. Now let's go back to the budget reconciliation, or again, one big beautiful bill, OBBB, or just BBB. It has a lot of different names. So it passed along very thin margins in both the House and the Senate, which shows just how contentious this bill was. In the Senate, the vice president had to cast the tie-breaking vote to make it 51-50. So there are some big policy changes that could impact state education funding in the near future that I do want to make you all aware of, just in case you aren't consuming the news in the same way that I do, which is probably best for your mental health if you don't. But just to let you know, so there will be a new requirement for states to contribute to SNAP or food stamps. This is happening in 2028. It's based on the state's error rate. So if they're issuing overpayments or underpayments, states are going to have to do anything from 5 to 15% may have to contribute to SNAP. They also have to contribute more to SNAP's administrative costs, which will be new, and that's all going to impact state budgets. There are expanded work requirements for SNAP, which could result in people losing their entitlement or their eligibility. There are also new work requirements for Medicaid, which also could result in people losing eligibility for Medicaid, which could have a potential impact on school-based health programs, as well as special ed. So anything that's charged to the Child Health Program or CHIP that could be impacted because that's a subsect of Medicaid. And then the other thing for K-12 specifically is new school choice tax credit. So this doesn't really apply to California because you don't have vouchers, but essentially for parents who are spending money on private education or vouchers, they can receive a tax credit up to a certain amount. So big changes specifically in the entitlement programs that could have a trickle-down effect for K-12 education, and then it could be a sizable effect on California's budget. Next slide.
Alicia,
Yes.
on the state contributions for SNAP, you indicated it kicks in 2028. Did I hear that correct? What
Yes.
about the work requirements on Medicaid? Is that now?
It's not now. It is sooner than 2028. I think it could start in 2026. I will double check that just to be sure and follow up with Susan. So don't quote me on 2026, but there was a lot of debate in Congress between the House and the Senate in terms of the timing of all of this, because they don't want certain things happening before the midterm election, just to be very frank. So I will double check the timing of the Medicaid piece and get back to you if that's okay.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be after the 2026 election, but it could still be December 2026. So the month kind of on that one matters too. Thank you very much, Alicia.
Of course, yeah. Okay, so I know I'm running short on
I
time,
have a
so
quick
I'll just,
question.
I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to ask about, and you may have mentioned this, the school-based health programs, the potential cuts. What programs would that might be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So any kind of so if there's a program at a school where they're charging anything to Medicaid, so that could be school nurses, that could be mental health. Sometimes that covers services for kids with disabilities, depending if they need certain equipment or certain resources. Anything that's being charged to Medicaid could be impacted because of the new work requirements. Because if the adult is no longer eligible for Medicaid, then the child, unless they're covered under CHIP, isn't eligible either. The other wrinkle in all of this, and maybe wrinkle is too light of a term, but is the impact for undocumented students and immigrants. There was a lot of conversation during the development of the bill in terms of not allowing undocumented immigrants access to state Medicaid funds, which California does. That provision did not make it into the final bill, but there was a Dear Colleague letter, which is just, it's more guidance versus orders that went out from the administration that undocumented immigrants should not be receiving any program benefits or any program supports that are federally funded. So again, it's not a mandate, but they are going to be more vigilant, I would say, in terms of how federal dollars are going and if any federal dollars are going to undocumented immigrants or undocumented students.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to try to keep it going. I think I'm already running behind time, so I'll try to speed up a little bit. So fiscal year 2026, the last year in all of this. So let's start with the president's budget request, which you may have heard about. There was a lot of information around this when it came out in May. So the president, again, this is just a request. This is not definitely going to happen. It could have, some elements could happen, I'll be honest. Some elements could if Congress decides, but it won't be enacted just as it is. It's too partisan for that. So for K-12, about $12 billion overall would be potentially cut, or that's what the president is asking to be cut from federal contributions to K-12. Title I would be maintained as, or excuse me, Title I Part A, which is the state or the direct grants to LEAs for low-income students. That would be maintained as is. Special ed, specifically IDA Part B, which is the grants to states, would see a bump by moving IDA Part D programs, which are more technical assistance, to Part B and giving that money directly to states, as well as grants for infants and families would be maintained. You can see they proposed increasing charter schools, which they're already doing now, given their flexibility. CTE or career tech education, That funding would be maintained. Impact aid, which is really for places that you can't collect local taxes for, so military bases or Native American reservations. That's supposed to help cover that gap, maintained, and then Indian education maintained. The one thing you probably are like, Alicia, you skipped something, which is the K-12 Simplified Funding Program. And this is this block grant that a lot of folks were talking about when this request first came out. Because essentially what it would do is everything that isn't listed or everything that's not listed in this left-hand column would be consolidated into one block grant and divided up formulaically amongst states. That's a really big change from what we currently have, which is several, line items that really dictate how states and school districts spend their money and where the money goes. So it would be more flexibility for states potentially, but it would be an overall cut to K-12 of about 4.5, $4.6 billion. I did some calculating for California. These are very rough numbers. So again, the program's not included in the left-hand column. About $900 million is what California receives from those. And those are those ones listed under consolidations suggested and the eliminations. So the right-hand column, about $900 million. Assuming California maybe gets 10% of this potential block grant, which would be 200 million, that could be a loss of 700 million federally funded dollars for California. Again, this isn't necessarily happening. We still have to see how appropriations plays out, but this would be a significant change for federal dollars going to K-12. Next slide, please. So wrapping up with what's happened so far with fiscal year 2026. So as I mentioned at the start, the Senate has released their bill. They released it at the end of July. We're not going to see the House bill until September, which makes August an interesting time here in DC. So in the Senate bill, basically they kept everything as is. So they rejected almost all of the president's budget request. They increased Title I Part A a bit. They increased IDEA Part B a bit. There was a couple of competitive grants that they decreased. No program was eliminated or consolidated. They did not create this new block grant, that $2 billion block grant. They did not create it. And there's text in the bill that actually affirms the support that the Senate has for the Department of Education, explicitly rejecting any potential elimination of the department. So they can't just close it. They have to go through Congress. Again, in theory, there's a lot of gray still in all of this. And the bill requires staffing levels at the Department of Education that would allow it to carry out its responsibilities. It's debatable now if they currently have those staffing levels. But the Senate seems to think there's room for improvement. I'll put it that way. And then the other piece that is really interesting is in the legislative text, it requires the timely distribution of formula funds. So really targeting that frozen, that freezing of the formula funds that happened earlier in July, that did not sit well with many senators. So their bill would require that distribution to happen July 1st. So any program review would have to occur before then. This is just the Senate's opening volley. Again, we have to see what the House comes up with. If just to speculate a little bit, I think the House is probably going to look much closer to Trump's budget, mainly because they're a bit more aligned with his policy agenda. And there's a world I could see in which the Trump administration leans a little bit on the House to as a rejection of the Senate in some ways, as just to oppose what the Senate is doing, since the Senate came out so hard against the president's budget. The other thing that's unclear at this point is the impact of rescissions. A lot of Democrats in the Senate have said, if they're just going to rescind the funding, we don't really have an incentive to negotiate appropriations because it doesn't really mean anything. So if these rescissions start to come, or if pocket rescissions or the silent rescissions are looking more possible or probable, that could really derail appropriations negotiations. I think that is my last slide. So I will pause again for any questions. I apologize for going over. I tried to keep it as short as possible, but then sometimes I like this stuff, so I talk a little bit too much. So I'll pause and see if there are any questions or any clarifications I can offer.
Alicia,
Yeah.
this is Judy Frost. Is there any possibility you would do like a monthly update of this in a newsletter to tell us what came of these items? Because this is the best representation of what's going on that I've seen.
Thank
This is
you.
excellent, and it needs to be applauded.
Thank you. I will have to check with my higher ups, just because that's not typically something Wested does. I'm not saying so it's not a no, but I'll have to look into it and I can follow up with Susan to see. But that's a decision that may be made above me. But I appreciate it very much.
Hi there, this is Sarah Reed. I also wanted to thank you with how you put this out there. It was very clear to understand. So I really appreciate it. And I would second what Ms. Frost said, which is an update would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you. I will definitely pass that along. Again, I'm not saying no, I'm just saying maybe for right now.
Thank you so much, Alicia. That was really giving a lot more clarity in an area that just begs for further clarity. So we'll wait. We'll stay tuned to see what the House has in store for September. But is it my understanding that that would require a 51% vote to pass?
Yes. Not a 51%. It would require a majority.
51 votes. 51 votes.
51 for the Senate, or excuse me, for appropriations, it would be 60 votes in the Senate. For the House, they need a simple majority. So the Senate is usually the problem child, because that's where they need to have some Democrats vote for this, or else we are facing a government shutdown starting October 1st.
60
So
for
it's going to be an interesting 45 days here in DC.
Hold on to your hats.
Yes.
You again.
Thank you all so much. It was a pleasure. I appreciate it. And I will be in touch through Susan as soon as I can.
Thank you
And
so
as
much.
soon as something happens to report.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Bye now. Wow. Okay. We are going to pause for a public hearing on textbook and instructional materials compliance. Open the public hearing.
No public comment here in the South.
North County, any public comment?
There is no public comment in the north.
I will then close the public hearing on textbook and instructional materials compliance. That brings us to a few action items. The first of which is a recommended adoption of a resolution regarding textbook and instructional materials compliance, which the superintendent recommends adoption of. Do we need any further edification on this? Don't believe so. Oh, yes, we do. Okay.
This is a annual hearing for all boards, so school boards, so county boards of education, as well as school district boards, to ensure that there is sufficiency of materials for all pupils within their schools. And for the county, bless you, we purposefully hold this after school hours so that families or parents or community members could come about the sufficiency of our materials within our county education office programs. And so this resolution here before you, it states that we do have sufficient textbooks within our schools, and it's before you for action.
This is the JCCS schools and
Correct.
so
Not the school districts
Right,
within the
Jeff.
county. They too are having this hearing. And in fact, the time period upon which school districts must have this hearing is right at the beginning of the school year. There's actual dates and days and numbers and hours and things like that, but it has to happen for all local education agencies at the beginning of the school year to ensure there's sufficient materials and curriculum for each student.
So this is for resources, textbooks. As it relates to curriculum,
Mhm.
do we have a similar process for understanding and or do we have an approval process for curriculum
Yes.
separate from textbook
Yes,
for resources?
we do it when we do have an adoption, which has been, it's been a while now since we have. I might ask Bridget to fill in if you'd like to make any comment, but for the instructional materials, this is the specific hearing that's required.
Okay.
And
Right.
how did families or anybody know that this was the time for the hearing for the county?
Yeah, very good question. And I'll actually pass it over to Bridget on that one because as the resolution shares, it talks about gathering, ensuring that families know. So let me pass it on to Bridget.
Certainly. Can you hear me okay? There is it is a public notice that needs to be posted in order to notify families of the opportunity for the public hearing. It's a process that happens, as Susan stated, annually, and it has to happen within the first 8 weeks of school. So we do that public notice piece to inform them of the opportunity to come. And again, it's just for the sufficiency, meaning that we have at least one textbook per curriculum or adopted subject per student.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that applies only to JCCS, as you mentioned. Okay, do I have a motion?
I so move.
A second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, and this goes to a roll call vote.
Okay, Mrs. Alvarez Flores,
Aye.
Dr. Armistead,
Aye.
Mrs. Clardy,
Aye.
Ms. Ehrman,
Aye.
Mrs. Frost,
Aye.
Mrs. Reed,
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Our next item is the recommended approval of award of bids, something a little different that allows districts to bill. And we're going to hear from Shannon York on the specifics.
Hello, can you hear me?
No.
Thank you for this opportunity. Good afternoon. My name is Shannon York, Director in Student and Community Services. And I'd like to provide just some additional context for the proposed health management software system as it relates to a new school-based billing system called the CYBHI fee schedule. So back in 2022, Governor Newsom put together the Master Plan for Kids' Mental Health, which included the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, or CYBHI. This was a $4.7 billion statewide initiative. This was really a response to the growing need to support students' mental health and wellness post-pandemic at a place where students spend most of their time at schools. There are actually 20 different programs or work streams under the CYBHI umbrella. And they're exist in kind of 4 buckets or focus areas: workforce training and capacity, behavioral health ecosystem and infrastructure, coverage architecture, and public awareness. And under coverage architecture exists the CYBHI fee schedule. So what is it? Basically, the fee schedule is a new system that allows schools the opportunity to bill for behavioral health services that they are providing at or near their school sites. It is a multi-payer system, meaning that schools could bill Medi-Cal, they could bill commercial insurance and disability insurance. It is school-linked, meaning the services are either provided at a school site or referred from the school site. And a fee schedule is a list of established payment rates for behavioral health services. The beneficiaries of this service would be students ages 0 through 25, so it is also inclusive of institutes of higher education. Who can bill? This would be COEs, districts and charters, and as I said, IHEs. The cost to students and families, there is none. So if a school bills a student's insurance, there is no copay. It would just be a flat fee for service rate that the insurance company is required to reimburse at. And this fee schedule actually has an expanded provider type. So it includes licensed clinicians, but also associates who may be supervised by licensed individuals. It includes PPS credentialed individuals, such as school counselors or social workers, nurses, wellness coaches, which is a brand new position, and physicians and psychiatrists. And the types of services fall into various categories. We're looking at assessments, counseling, case management, psychoeducation, and crisis. So now, in order to join this new system, the state recognizes that schools may not have the infrastructure in order to bill insurance care plans. This is for some a brand new area to enter into. So there's a different program under the CYBHI umbrella that provided some one-time funding for schools to do that work. And that is the School Linked Partnership and Capacity Grant. So this is a slide I shared back in March when me and some other colleagues provided a brief overview of some of the behavioral health supports that we were providing in our county. And this grant has 4 primary areas of focus, which are listed here: Medi-Cal enrollment, service delivery, billing, and data collection and documentation. So across our county, there's 17 districts and charters participating in this grant. And I want to highlight 2 of the focus areas listed here. And really that billing infrastructure and data collection and documentation. These are integral components of a successful school-based billing system. And districts and charters recognize that. So 15 of the 17 participating districts and charters decided to set aside some funds to find a health management system software to support in those areas specifically. So instead of the approach being a siloed process for each district or charter, this provides an opportunity to collaborate across the county. And so with that, I just want to highlight the why, if you will, or some of the reasons why school districts are really looking at adopting a billing vendor or an electronic health record. So a health management system provides both of those 2 key pieces. It provides secure data management, so ensuring that schools are really following protected health information laws, workflow integration. So this would streamline some of the workflows with billing data for efficient claims preparation. Schools are not necessarily billing specialists, right? So the opportunity to bring along a system that can support with that is really important. Maximize reimbursement rates, so that way we're not having a loss of work time. And then hopefully to support with reducing errors. There's a lot of automation that happens in these systems. So with that, that's kind of covers the why of that part, but I'm going to go ahead and bring up my colleague Steve Torres here just to discuss our process that we used internally at SBCEO for selecting the software system.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. So like Shannon said, the most important thing is why and who we're serving. But I did want to make sure you had some information on the process that we followed. Our internal services department manages requests for proposals. So we did follow a formal process for selecting a vendor. And we opened up our request for proposals on April 8th, and we closed it on May 5th. And we had a period for vendors to ask questions. We provided answers, posted those so that all interested vendors had the opportunity to access that information. So in addition to direct communication, we had a page where they could access the information at any time. And there's a couple slides here that kind of recap a little bit of what the why was, but how we captured in the request for proposal was within the project scope. And ultimately for this electronic health records system, we looked at 3 key areas. We wanted to make sure that the software package was turnkey, meaning that it was ideally already in use with other LEAs, but there was an opportunity for slight modifications to meet our individual LEA needs. We also wanted to make sure that it was a centralized billing vendor solution that fit the needs and was able to handle the capacity of our 16 LEAs and the 35,000 students that they serve. And then lastly, that it was aligned to the CYBHI, every time I'll say it slowly, initiative. This initiative is new to us here that are doing it. And we want to make sure that the vendor had someone on their side that's tracking this just as closely so we could be partners in the process and rely on each other for getting that information as it's released. And the scope of work for the multi-fee schedule, just quickly, 4 key areas. The integration of the health record system with Carillon, which we learned a lot about on the internal services side during this process, ensuring that it meets those requirements, seamless data collection, data privacy, items like that. The third-party billing solution to streamline the reimbursements, ultimately facilitating this process for our districts so they could take full advantage of the billing features. Medi-Cal enrollment, and then training and support. Training on the front side, training throughout to meet our individual needs. We know this is going to be a process, so we need to make sure that there's some real hand-holding throughout. Oops, go back one and forward one. There you go. And just big picture, there was 6 key evaluation criteria areas that we looked at from the proposals that we received. We looked at the cost, proposed fees, the understanding of the project, the technical competence, functional technical requirements, similar project experience, and maintenance and support. And we had rubrics to capture and measure those as well. And our process went as follows. We had initial review. We did have 9 proposals that we received. We had a panel review those using the rubrics. We advanced 5 to the final selection, and they notified those individuals that we would like to conduct an interview, which involves questions as well as product demonstration. We did those on May 22nd. Our panel included SBCO staff as well as staff from our districts and charters that would be participating in this program. And then through that process, with the information we gathered, as well as reference checks, it was very important that we got information from those districts and COEs that were already using the product. We did arrive at a vendor selection, which is the Paradigm Healthcare contract, which is in front of you now. So that's the end here of our part, but we're happy to answer any questions.
This
And
is
this is
ju-
just,
Oh, go ahead, Mary Beth.
I was just going to reiterate, it's this just for a 5-year contract.
2-year. 2-year
Oh, it's
contract.
it's
Yeah,
2 years. Okay. Thank you. But I mean, for a 5-year, the governor's grant is for 5 years? Is that, okay. CYBHI, it's 5 years, and this is a 2-year
2
contract.
years, yes. And it's really to get the districts started.
Yeah. And then once started, they're on their own.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Judy?
I need clarification. I don't know if I dozed off. I'm not sure what happened, but would this software be housed at the county office and the county would gather the information from the districts and I'm going to say an old-fashioned word, enter it into this system? Or would this software be distributed to each of the participating districts and everybody would do their own entry?
Yeah, these are software licenses. So they're per LEA. So those licenses are directly with the LEA. And essentially what it includes is some setup fees and the license counts are based by LEA and their property.
Then what role, if any, does the county office have in each LEA for this?
Let Shannon come up for that one. Yeah.
Quite honestly, it's going to be minimal on that regard. So our role is really to help to provide opportunities for onboarding, professional learning, some troubleshooting. But really what our role was to really try and have our LEAs collaborate across their respective areas in adopting a system that can be used across the county. So our role is mostly, I would say, a fiscal go-between, if you will, on adopting this, but really to help to go through with a really thorough process in identifying a vendor so that districts don't have to go through that independently.
Do you see that potential need for the county to have I'll use the word committee, of all the LEAs that are using it so that they can share what they find or what they learn, a kind of a collaboration? Or do you see just if an LEA contacts the district office will supply some support, but that's it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a behavioral health learning network that most of these districts already participate in. So there are opportunities for districts, the district leadership to collaborate across the districts in our county. Does that answer your question, Ms. Frost?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Any further questions?
I have a question about the different districts. It seems like they have different fees, annual fees and fees per student, unless I'm reading that incorrectly. And I just wanted to understand why or what goes into those figures.
That's a good question. And so the cost per district is based on the number of students or the ADA count. And so that is adjusted for each district. And then there are additional add-on features that districts may select, which we can cover with the funds of the grant, but we are allowing LEAs to make that decision of what works best for them on what add-on features they would like to adopt. And some of those features are also based on the number of students. So one of them, for example, is an extra $1 per student if that LEA elects for that additional add-on.
Yeah, okay. I see that, and this, I mean, I'm sorry if I'm getting too much in the weeds. It's just the difference between the student per year, each student. It's like for the juvenile court and community schools, it's 58 per year. But then for the Santa Maria Joint Union School, it's 8,000 approximately per year per student. Unless I'm reading that wrong, because there's one per year and the student wellness features.
So the student wellness feature is the one that's $1 per student.
Okay.
So it's based on just the number of students in that district.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
I just was like, that's why variance? Just wondering. Okay. Thank you for that.
If I might, one more comment, if that's okay. I just want to mention, this is a brand new system. So in relation to, it's not related to necessarily what was discussed in the federal updates. This is not, this is a new way for schools to be able to reimburse these dollars. It is not anything that is existing at this point in time.
Hence our question. So thank you for your answers.
No, I do have
there's
one
more.
more.
One more.
I am so sorry. I don't know what's with me today. My brain is functioning. Are we satisfied that this software will run on existing hardware and IT systems in all of these districts and at county?
Yes, we had input from the districts from that perspective, as well as our IT as part of the process. And they are fully integratable with student information systems as well as the hardware. So yeah, that was one of the components of the evaluation.
That is it. Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion to formalize the approval of the award of bid to Paradigm Healthcare Services.
So moved.
We have a motion, a second. We have a second, and we'll go to roll call.
Okay, Mrs. Alvarez Flores,
Aye.
Dr. Armistead,
Hi.
Mrs. Cardy,
Aye.
Ms. Ehrman,
Aye.
Mrs. Frost,
Aye.
Mrs. Reed,
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Excellent. Now we have an item on the Association of California County Boards of Education, ACCBE. I think this represents a merger. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the CSBA and the CCSB, they got together, had a baby. It's ACCBE. But I think Susan is going to provide us with a little bit more detail.
I'll
Thank you.
share with you. I'll share with you. So CSBA, we're all familiar with the California School Boards Association, a large organization that provides a lot of support. CSBA had before now had an organization under it called the California County Boards of Education. So it was under CSBA, California County Boards of California County Boards of Education. And it not disbanded, it turned into a region under CSBA. So CSBA has Region 1, Region 2, Region 3. by geography, and they created Region 14 for county boards. Okay, so CSBA has it now. And when CCBE existed, the fees at the time for counties to be a part of CCBE was $4,207. Okay. CSBA still has fees for us to participate. And then you add on to it for gamut, like school board policies. They provide workshops. You would see on the next item, there is going to be a conference. So CSBA provides sessions, workshops, information, resources. Okay. A group of County Board of Education trustees said, you know, I'd like to see an organization that is of county boards members for county board members. So another organization got created, and that organization is ACCBE, the Association of California County Boards of Education. The president of that newly formed, now separate and additional group is Bina Lefkowitz from Sacramento County Board of Education. And she and I spoke, and she's eagerly accepting county boards to be a part of this organization. It's separate. They have her PowerPoint is part of your board book. Her FAQ is part of your board book. There are over 30 county boards who've now signed on to this new organization. And again, the idea is to be created by county board members for county board members, I'll say, as in a nutshell. And their dues, they base them on what were the dues before, and they base them on that. And now their separate dues are $4,225. They too are providing workshops. It's really created, I would say it's a little more grassroots, probably is a fair way to say. Workshops put on by county board members for county board members, and they're bringing in keynote speakers as well. So it's a beginning. They've invited the county board to be a part. It's up for discussion for you. I could see, if you wanted to entertain a way forward, I could see either you decide to sign on as a board, of which the county office has set aside the $4,225 should you wish to sign on this year. You could sign on this year and see how the year goes as a pilot and evaluate in a year. That could be an approach. You could say, you know what, let's pause. Let's see what kind of offerings they have, and then sign on to it. You don't have, there's not a window that you can sign on and you miss the window. You can sign on at any time this year. But I just wanted to offer those as two options. I'm sure there's 50 more options in which you could entertain, but I wanted to provide that for you as the distinction and a new organization that formed for county board members.
Questions, comments?
I have a question, and I'm sorry, you might have mentioned this and I missed it. So is CSBA, is that still a separate organization?
It is.
Okay, so, and are we a part, and we are a part of, so we would have a membership in two organizations?
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's correct. You're welcome.
So I think the question is, do we want to get involved in this nascent organization that has been created to fill a need as they perceived it for an independent voice? Do we want to pause, wait a year, see what it looks like, jump in then? Pause, wait a year, choose not to get involved. It's $4,000 that's already been allocated, so it's not a lot of money, but I don't really see any objection to joining. I think it's probably, they're going to need critical mass before they can really produce workshops of importance and value.
That was maybe separate but related question. So I am a big supporter and advocate of CSBA. Does our board typically have a presence at CSBA? Do we typically go to the annual?
Yeah, the CSBA annual kind of big convening happens specifically, I'd say the bigger convening is for district boards.
Right.
I actually don't have that on my, don't have the dates memorized right now.
December, I think.
December, you're right. I
Yeah.
believe it is in December.
Mm.
And that isn't where the county board has traditionally attended.
Mm.
There is on the next agenda item, excuse me, the CSBA is convening county board members in September. And we have had sometimes individuals attend, sometimes not, depends on who's available and who can attend that weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would it maybe this new association, do we know when their next meeting would be?
Let's see, I think they might have a schedule, and they have been sending out some periodic messaging. Okay, 22nd.
Well, quarterly gathering 22nd.
22nd.
Board of Director meeting the 15th.
22nd, 15th of
September.
September.
So not in conflict with the CSBA. I think they're really wanting to not be in conflict with the CSBA Region 14 County Board Services. They're really wanting to complement.
I would, couple things. One, I would hope that a good number of us attend the CSBA conference that looks like it's in September 5th through 7th. And certainly an option might be somebody could attend the new association without being a member and report back to this body what their impression was of that organization.
Yeah, I also want to share what I know Bina would want to share, which is she's happy to come into a Zoom presentation as well. So there's another
I would say
option.
in addition to, but you're not going to get the flavor from her presentation.
Understood. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, with that, do we have a motion to approve membership in the ACCBE for the 25-26 fiscal year? Hearing
I'll
none.
make an alternative motion.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that we send a contingency to their meeting to come back and give us their impression of whether or not we should join.
September, in the PowerPoint, there's a full schedule.
Yeah.
While you're looking, I would just say, absent of someone, Susan or someone else, making a strong recommendation that we absolutely need to join this. I'm not particularly interested in spending $4,000
Okay,
just because. I'd be more than happy for us to spend $1,000 for people to go and come back and give us their thoughts. I don't want to cap it at 1,000. I'd be happy for people to go and.
okay, thank you for your input, Guy. Well, I will make a motion then.
Well, you have a motion.
That's an alter, okay,
No, my alternate motion was to send a contingency.
okay.
It-
So
it needs a second to go forward.
in
but anyway, that's fine.
lieu of membership, your motion is to send a representative to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay. So that motion's defeated. I'm going to move to approve membership for this first year. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
I would like to have a discussion or comment.
that time.
Okay. I would prefer to refer this matter back to the superintendent and have her make a recommendation on how we proceed, and that might be to send some of us or see if some of us could attend one of these events. It could be anything, but I just, having been to a CSBA/CCBE convention, a couple, I just like a little bit more independent input about ACCBE.
Okay. All right, well, do we need a vote then?
Well, you get, yeah, you kind of do. You have a
We have a
motion
motion.
and a second.
And
And I think
discussion.
if that doesn't pass, then. you-
And it's a roll call. Okay, let's go for a roll call vote.
Okay, Mrs. Alvarez.
Will you
Flores?
clarify the motion again real quick, please?
The motion on the floor is to approve membership for the fiscal year 25-26. So a 1 year, and I'm forwarding that motion in the interest of making a decision.
And that is 1 year in ACCBE.
Correct. So the motion again is to approve membership in the Association of California County Boards of Education for the upcoming 25-26 fiscal year. And we have a second,
Mhm.
and we have discussion, and now we're going to go to a roll call vote.
Okay, Mrs. Alvarez Flores,
No.
Dr. Armistead? Yeah. Mrs. Cardy,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrman,
No, I'd like more information.
Mrs. Frost,
No.
Mrs. Reed,
No.
Mr. Walker.
No.
Okay, motion did not pass.
Okay, motion doesn't pass. Thank you. Next item, reimburse expense for board members. I'm sorry,
It's
Go back
okay.
to the
I make
previous.
point of order.
I was gonna.
So I think Judy then had, and I don't know if we can entertain Judy's motion recommendation.
to remand it back to the superintendent. Was that?
Yes,
that
I
was
would
the
make a
suggestion?
motion that we remand it back to the superintendent for further investigation and come back to the board with a plan, suggestion, recommendation, whatever.
I was gonna say, I don't know that it needs an action, but I'm happy to take it back, to, we'll see about how we can learn more about the organization and bring it back to the board.
Great.
Okay, all right.
Perfect.
No
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that happy compromise. Okay. I don't think any of us are that excited about it, but I think it definitely needs a little bit more color to make it, if it is indeed value added.
And
So thank
you know,
you.
it's interesting. I would like to be more excited about it, but I'm not. So if I'm missing something here, help us out.
Yeah. Well, we learned of this development, I think it was last year, and it was a little, a little political in the kind of the way that the effort went forward. I think there was some
There was some
Maybe-
debate. There was some
debate. Yeah, maybe political is too strong a term, but it was
Yeah.
born of a little internal division. So hopefully this will be, we'll get more information.
Happy to give more information. And President Cardy, I'm happy to give some information about number 22 as well, the
Perfect.
conference. The conference, I have information right here, so I just wanted to point to it.
Thank you.
It's September 5th, 6th, and 7th at the Monterey Plaza Hotel and Spa. This is a conference from CSBA, the County Board Conference. The cost of this conference is $699 for the 3 days. And then hotel would be and travel would be an additional cost. That's the
Thank
summary.
you. And so the item is a reimbursement of those expenses for board members to attend the CSBA County Board Member Service Conference in September in Monterey at the Hotel and Spa. And I need a motion on that
So move.
in a second.
I'll second.
And we need a roll call vote.
Can I ask a question?
course.
I don't really know the process for attending, so it's a reimbursement if you so choose to go. Is that it?
Yes. Do you want to explain that? It's
and-
just,
And then is there, do we divide up and choose things, or, I mean, is there a focus on it? Having gone to other conferences with the other school boards, we kind of divided and conquered. I mean, I'm just looking for the purpose of going and what would be the outcome upon returning from a conference?
Yes, so having been to these conferences before, they're typically general sessions, as many of you gone to conferences before, general sessions and breakouts. And Mrs. Flores, I will say that it's been, it could be something where we want to just see if there is availability this year for board members to attend. I happen to know just through the events we even discussed today, that there's many conflicts during that 5th, 6th, and 7th window.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that could be problematic or, in conflict with what board members already have scheduled. But I thought I would raise that too. I'm glad you said something, because should a board member or the whole team like to go, I think it would be wonderful to then strategize which workshops we go to when we we would help reserve the hotel rooms for you. This item, of course, is about reimbursing should you go, but the question may be, is anyone this year able to attend or interested in attending or planning to attend?
and with that, this is a budgeted item, so we have, if everybody were able to go, okay. I think that was what you were asking too about the selection process of who would be allowed to go if there were multiple requests. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Again, I'll ask for a motion. We already did that. We seconded. Okay, we're up to, thank you very much. Getting late. Roll call vote.
Okay. Mrs. Alvarez Flores,
First, if you go.
Mrs. Alvarez Flores.
Oh. I clarify my own thoughts. I
Mrs. Cardy.
Aye.
Ms. Erman.
Aye.
Mrs. Frost.
I,
Mrs. Reed.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, now we just have some information items. You've seen the personnel report that's attached. As always, the Williams Uniform Complaints Quarterly Report. Ethics training requirement for board members. That's an attachment. And I'm wondering, are there any questions on that requirement?
that's new, right?
We have to have it completed by January 1st, 2026. And every
But-
2 years thereafter.
But we've not participated in that before. Or did I miss something?
It is a new bill, a new requirement.
Okay. And then we've got correspondence. And now we can move to yet another closed session. So we'll take a moment to regroup for that. And we'll leave mics off and then back on again, please.